Hi, neighbor. Welcome to Pastor Roy's Neighborhood, where each week I'll spend some time talking with some of our Evangel staff and family on a variety of topics. Since this coming Sunday is Father's Day, I've invited two dads from our Evangel staff to join me today to talk about being a father, Darryl Russo and Phil Remelgado. Darryl is a longtime member of Evangel and currently serves as Director of Strategic Initiatives. He and his wife, Amy, have three children, Hannah, Sarah, and Samuel. Phil joined the Evangel staff this year as bookkeeper. He and his wife, Rafaela, also have three children, Joshua, David, and Daniel. Darryl and Phil, welcome to the neighborhood. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Pastor Roy.
Thanks for having us.
So I can't think of a person who was more fatherly than Mr. Rogers. He just had this way of talking to and especially listening to children that I think was a great example for all dads. So before we begin our discussion today, I'd like to share a thought that Fred Rogers once shared about being a father. And what he said was this. He said, when our sons were born, I thought, how in the world will I ever be a father to teenagers? Well, thankfully, you don't have to be right away. It's so important to be able to be the father of a 1-year-old before you're the father of a 2-year-old. So, I think what Fred Rogers was saying there is that being a dad is a learning process, and it brings with it challenges, it brings difficulties, worries, fears, but it also brings a lot of joy and satisfaction as we see our children grow into the men and women that God created them to be. So Darryl, I want to start with you. As the father of three children who are now young adults, can you share what fatherhood means to you?
Yeah, well, I agree with Mr. Rogers on that point, Pastor Roy. And I can't imagine, 20 some years ago, being a child or being a father of adult children. But over time, they've grown with me. I've grown with them. My wife and I have grown together as parents. And so that really, I can totally resonate with that. But as far as what it means to me, I mean, it's just absolutely awesome. My kids are great. Of course, they're not perfect, like none of ours are, nor is their dad by any stretch of the imagination. But in that, I even have an opportunity to show, my imperfections and help them walk through, particularly as adults, now that my kids, my son is about to have a birthday. He'll be 19. My daughter Sarah is 20, and my oldest daughter is 23, Hannah. And so, so when my kids were, say, Phil's kids' age or even younger, there was a lot of me, telling them what to do and laying down the rules, so to speak. Obviously, as they grow and get their own, levels of responsibility and things like that, it's really more of a guiding process, and it's so rewarding to me to be able to see my kids grow and follow the Lord in their own paths and what God's called them to do.
Thank you. Phil, you are also the father of three, but your kids are a lot younger. I think your oldest is 8, correct?
Yes, that is true.
Okay,
He's 8 years old.
Yeah. What does fatherhood mean to you?
Oh, fatherhood. It's something that doesn't come with instructions, that's for sure, when they come out. I wish it did, but it doesn't. But fatherhood, it's just something that that you learn as it comes. And what I've really have learned through this time being a father to 3 young ones is really what Paul says to the church in Corinth in 1 Corinthians 11. He says, be imitators of me as I am of Christ. Right. So that's where I try to base myself as a father and really what it means to be as a father, because anyone can be a father, let's say, per se, and have a child, but to really be that imitation of Christ in their lives, it's an honor to do so. It's something that God has bestowed on us, and we shouldn't take that lightly. It's something that I've learned, and I continue to learn. and to really just be Christ in their lives, and to just be that guiding force in their life, to be the teacher, to be the one that even to love them, to ask God, and how do I love them? How do I discipline them? And that's what it really means to be a father. It's definitely not easy.
Right.
But God has really been helping through, and just how can I be Jesus in their lives so that they can continue to grow in the light of Christ, and see their father as an image of a heavenly father. Of course, like Darryl said, it's far from perfect.
Exactly.
But even in those imperfections, that they can see that Christ is above all things and his grace is sufficient. So,
Amen. Amen. It's really, it's a responsibility, but it's also a privilege when
yes,
you really come right down to it. So,
yes.
Darryl, going back to you as the father of adult children, I've found that our kids grow up, but we never stop being a dad.
Yeah.
So as the father of older kids, how has your role changed as a father as your children have grown from being babies to being young adults?
Yeah, that's a great question, Pastor Roy, and it has changed, of course, naturally. One thing as Phil was talking, I was reminded of something that a friend and former coworker of ours, Pastor Bobby Nemeth, he used to say to me, "Well, Darryl, the answer is the Sunday school answer. The answer is Jesus, right?" And so, so regardless of the question, this was his point. And he said it in a humorous way, but it's a serious point too. Regardless of the question, the answer is Jesus. And that's so simple, but it's so profound, and really it's so true. And so one of the things, to answer your question, is that's how I'm doing my best to model that to the kids, right? So when I have struggles, when I have challenges, when I don't know what to do or where to go or how to turn as I'm making a decision or doing this or that, the Sunday school answer for me is Jesus, right? Go to Jesus,
Right.
go to the Lord, ask him, read his word, pray, talk to others who have godly counsel. And so I try to do, well, in my own life, I try to do that as best I can, but then I'm also, as a father of adult children, I'm trying to intentionally model that, rather than, maybe when my kids were 4 or 5 years old, it would be something that I would do alone, or that Amy and I would do together. We'd go before the Lord and kind of wrestle with whatever the challenges are. But now we're bringing that, amongst the whole family, and saying, Sarah, let me tell you why I'm struggling with this here. I've got to figure this out. Would you pray with me? And so not only is she praying with me, but she's also seeing me model. That's the answer. Dad knows the answer. It's the Sunday school answer. The answer is Jesus. And so that's certainly a way. And then kind of likening that, or a little bit different, but also along those lines of just helping them understand, walk through thought process, right? So when I was dealing with maybe a relational issue with a coworker, or somebody at church, or somebody in family, or whatever else, or maybe a financial issue, or a job situation, whatever it might be, where again, when my kids were younger, I would tend to keep them from those challenges, and not that I give them all of the challenges and open the whole book completely, but in many ways we do, and we say, hey, look, this is what we're going through, this is what we need to deal with, and help them understand thought process, right? And so that thought process, first of all, what's the beginning of wisdom, right? So we know that, again, the Sunday school answer is Jesus, and so as we're bringing the Sunday school answer into real life and in real situations in our own lives, and we're modeling that for our kids, it helps them understand that's what I should be doing, when I have challenges as a 20-year-old or a 23-year-old or whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So Phil, 2020 has been a really challenging year so far. And I want to ask you this, as a dad, all of these issues that we've seen around us between pandemic and the racial tensions, how have you navigated those issues with your kids?
Well, I have to start it off on the basis of three words. Lord, have mercy.
Amen.
Um,
Amen.
it's really been, it's very challenging. And one of the things that I've really have done is that I try not to hide it from my children.
Okay.
Uh, I try to filter. As a parent, of course, can't just throw everything out there, but I really try to filter and to be real with them as to what's going on in regards to the pandemic. For example, we really know that things have gotten bad in different places of the world, even here in the US. And what we end up doing is that we will talk with them and we'll have a conversation and speak to them, although they're quite young, but they still get it. Maybe not 100%,
Right.
but at least those seeds are planted in there. And what we try to show them is that, hey, this is serious. Things are happening out there. And in the midst of this, we just got to be thankful for God, thankful to God, excuse me, for one, being in a country and in a place where we have so many resources.
Right.
And I explained to them that, there's places where there isn't, for example, maybe in places in Africa or even in Europe or South America, like my wife is from Brazil, we'll turn on the news and the devastation that's going on there. There aren't beds, respirators. In Africa, there's some countries that only have one respirator for the whole country. So we share this information with them and we try not to hide it and kind of keep them in a bubble because that's not reality. One day they will grow up and be in the steps of Darryl's children.
Right.
They're going to be 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24. And if we hide them in this bubble, when they get out there, they don't know what's truth and reality. And if we can bring them into the foundation of the truth of Christ, but yet at the same time teach them the reality around us, hopefully they can learn to grow and mature as the Christians that God wants them to be.
Right.
So we try not to hide it from them. Of course, we are careful. We do tell them that, for example, even the racial tension, when we do talk about that, we do tell them that, unfortunately, there are people that don't like other people. And, we have all this stuff, but God has created us in his image. It's just the color of the skin. That's all it is. And, and even in that, we even show the beauty of God as flowers have different colors. So does humanity, and God is still perfect in all of that. So we try to guide them and direct them through that, try to bring some words of wisdom into their lives, although they're young, but these are those crucial years, especially for children as they grow, for character development, the way they see the world, society. And that's really the way that we've been trying to deal with it. It hasn't been easy trying to juggle everything and the world bombarding us and the news and everything with so much going on. But with God's grace and his mercy, we're taking it a step at a time and just trying to see that we get through this healthy and safe and hopefully with a greater appreciation for life, for family, for our neighbors, our church, and above all, for God.
Amen. Amen. So Darryl, same question. With older kids now, obviously they're going to have a little bit more understanding, or maybe a lot more understanding of what's going on. How do you navigate that with young adults?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to my last answer of just helping them understand, helping them process, how they should probably be thinking. And if they think exactly like me, okay, the reality is they don't, and that's okay too. God created them to be their own person. But there are certain principles, certainly, that are godly principles that we need to look at. Some of which, Phil had even shared, not only with the pandemic but also with the racial issues of just, there are God created us in his image, you know, the things I won't repeat what Phil said, but what Phil said, you know, that's part of the conversation as well. But
Sure.
as it relates to the pandemic, you know, I mean, you know, 2 of my 3 kids were furloughed as part of this process, you know, due to COVID. And so navigating that and navigating, you know, some amount of unemployment and the different kinds of things that they needed to do to try to find other work and how to manage their own finances and things like that. So that's very, very, very practical, you know, kinds of things. My son, he's a full-time student in college. He finished the semester, you know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, whatever it was. And you know, as he's looking to find a job, he worked at a grocery store last summer, and he was kind of thinking of doing that again. And then he came to us and said, well, you know, I mean, COVID, you know, seeing a whole lot of people, you know, what's the deal? And so we walked through, you know, we didn't tell him what the right answer was. Cause, you know, honestly, as adults, do any of us know what the right answer is for a lot of this stuff? You know, let's be truthful, you know, and so just, you know, very, very humbly and very, hey, I don't have all the answers, Sam, but these are some of the things that maybe you should be thinking about. And so he kind of went through a process of, you know, well, should I work here? Should I not work here? What if I don't find a job? You know, all those things. And he decided, by the way, he made the decision to work again and pursue, you know, working at the grocery store. So he's a cashier, and, you know, he's seeing, I don't know, 100 or 200 people a day and trying to social distance. And hey, Sam, remember to wear your gloves, remember to wear your mask, you know, wash off, you know, those kinds of real practical things that certainly all 3 of us on this call and everybody listening to this, we're all going through the same thing. You know, what's the right answer to do, you know, relative to mask, relative to going to the store, not going to the store, you know, and then you come into play, you know, am I immunocompromised? Is anybody in my family, you know, and so you go through all those processes and make the best determination that you can through what is obviously a difficult situation, not only for the Russo family, but for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So in closing, I'd like to ask you both to just say one thing that you'd like to share to encourage dads out there. So Phil, for you, what would you like to say to encourage fathers of young kids who will be watching this?
I would have to say time. Seize the time with your children because it passes ever so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Don't try to, when they're in diapers, oh, I can't wait until they stop walking. And when they start walking, I can't wait until they ride their bike. Can't wait until they're out of diapers. I can't wait until they're in high school. Because before you know it, they're out of diapers. They're walking, rub walking. They don't walk anymore. They run. They skip that stage. They run. They're in elementary school. They're starting freshman year. Before you know it, they're in their prom, graduating, and they're off to college. And then you look back and you just say, why didn't I seize all of those opportunities in those times? They come and go like a breeze in the wind. I know sometimes we just want to work at our career. We want to put food on the table and all that stuff. And that's very important. But a child really needs that time of a father because we are that image of God to them here on earth. And how can we preach Christ if we can't be Christ to our own children? So that's my words would be just spending that time, 5-10 minutes, listening to them. If you have boys, I mean, my boys like to wrestle with me, and we wrestle and we play around and stuff. Sure. But just seize the opportunity. Don't let time slip through your hands because then it's just too late. It never comes back.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Darryl, what about a word of encouragement for fathers with older kids?
Yeah, that's actually, I'm not sure I can top Phil's. I thought Phil's was excellent answer. But just to add to Phil's, you know, we have, for those of us like Phil and I that have multiple kids, you know, don't ever be under the illusion, and I'm sure we know this, but be mindful of it, be conscious of it. I've got 3 kids. They're growing up in the same household with the same dad, the same mother, you know, for good, bad, or indifferent. They have the same experience overall. But you know what? My 3 kids are different. You know, and what Hannah likes and dislikes is different than what Sarah does, which is different than Sam does. And so for us to, of course, to the extent you can, do things as a family, which we do quite a bit, I'm thankful for that. But have that individual time with just Sarah, or just Sam, or just Hannah in my case, and make that time, whatever it looks like, whatever it is, even if it's not something that is the most of interest to you personally, recognize the fact that this is quality time you could spend with just so-and-so or so-and-so. So I would add, again, what Phil said, but just add even the individual element of that, and just be thankful. Also what Phil said, awesome about the various stages, Phil. But I've always said to people, I've loved each stage. I loved diapers. I didn't love diapers themselves, but I love that time period, right? Of being able to hold that little baby on your lap or on your chest or whatever. And just, that was awesome. That was awesome. I'm gonna get emotional just even thinking about that.
Right.
And when they started to talk, and when they started, one of the things that I really enjoyed when the kids were younger, when they got to the age, for you guys, you work with me, so you kind of know, I sometimes try to be, sometimes a wise guy and try to, crack a joke or whatever else. When the kids got old enough that they realized I was kidding with them, that was like a whole new level of excitement, and then when they were going through challenges of, learning to ride a bike and all those, each phase is awesome. Honestly, as a 23, 20, and 19-year-old, this phase is awesome. And so hold on to each of these phases. Be thankful for each of these phases. You can look back on the past and say, oh, that was awesome when they were 6 or when they were whatever. Sure, that's fine. But don't do that to the detriment of the current. And don't look forward, like Phil said, oh man, once they get out at 4 years old, I can't wait till they're 6. No. Enjoy 4, or enjoy, in my case, 23. At some point, perhaps before too long, some 1, 2, or all 3 of my kids aren't going to be here. And so why would I not try to take advantage of that now and just enjoy the time together?
Amen. Well, thank you both for being here today. I pray that this will be an encouragement to the dads who will watch this. So to those of you who are watching, thanks for joining us. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend, and especially if that friend is a dad. So thanks for being here. Thanks, Darryl. Thanks, Phil. And I'll see you next time in Pastor Roy's neighborhood. God bless, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Thanks, Pastor Roy.
Thank you.